Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hello there, kiddies. It's me, Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt that aired on HBO from 1989 to 1996.
Now, on each of our podcasts, we do 2 episodes of the television series, and along the way, in between seasons, we do bits of Tales-related ephemera and some tangentially related Tales materials.
On this episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're taking a look at 2 episodes from Season 6, Staired, in Horror, and In the Groove.
When I think of you, my heart goes flopsy as I contemplate your sweet autopsy. Your skin is green and blue, whatever would I do without my fine cadaver? That love in which I know I'll fall starts with the unkindest cut of all. Thank you. They don't call me the creative writing corpse for nothing. Thank you. My next poem is a little experimental number I've been working on. I hope you like it. It's about a real ghoul dude named Clyde, who's about to try a little daiku of his own in a vile verse I call Staired in Horror.
So Staired in Horror aired December 14th, 1994. It is directed by Stephen Hopkins, written by Teller, yes, that Teller, of Penn and Teller, and Calm Decay. It stars D.B. Sweeney and Rachel Ticotin, along with R. Lee Ermey. And D.B. Sweeney plays a fugitive on the run who stumbles upon a weird house that may or may not have a haunted staircase.
Yeah, that's what happened, all right.
Boy, isn't it?
Yeah, all right, so this is this particular episode is based on a Vault of Horror number 23, with it was written and the artwork was done by Graham Ingalls, who is a great artist, but his women's faces are terrible. This particular episode deviates wildly from the original one. There's no chain gang, there's no curse necessarily. I liked the concept of this one quite a bit, I gotta say. If it's betrayed at all, and it is betrayed pretty heavily, it's the old age makeup on Rachel Ticotin there. Like, it is spectacularly bad.
Yeah, the old woman makeup on Rachel Ticotin is awful. It's the kind of old person makeup that you're essentially told to avoid when you're doing this kind of makeup. It's a melty face makeup.
It's real bad. I gotta wonder, I think the regular makeup effects people for the show for however many years are gone at this point, right? I mean, even
they have to be, because this is Bush League compared to what we've seen in the past.
Even I noticed that this season the Crypt Keeper segments are actually directed by A.L. Katz now. Whereas before, I think Kevin Yeager was doing all of that, and Kevin Yeager was pretty much the main special effects and makeup guy on the show. So I'm going to guess he's gone now, and this is what we're left with. Not that we've gotten spectacular old age makeup in the past. It's been pretty universally terrible, but it always begs the question.
Wait, you're telling me that Margot Kidder didn't look believable as an old woman?
Oh my God, it was so good. I always wonder in an old age situation like this, why they just don't cast an actor who is older and bears some resemblance to them. I think they did that in A League of Their Own for the opening. They had a woman who looked sort of remarkably like Gina Davis, and then they just had Gina Davis dub the voice, which would have been appropriate here, considering we spend so much time with the old woman.
Well, anything is better than what we got here, because what we got here is such a mess of an old woman makeup that it really does distract from everything else going on in the episode. I mean, it is that bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Having said that, as I said, I do like the concept. I like this idea that there's a curse that if a man goes up the stairs, he will get old, and if she comes down, she'll get old, and they have to meet in the middle. It's interesting. I enjoy that, and always good to see R. Lee Ermey being R. Lee Ermey in every single thing he's in. Oh, I don't know. I actually did like the makeup on DB Sweeney once he goes upstairs. The sort of old age makeup on him was, I think, far more successful. But then it didn't need to be as prominently displayed as Rachel Tickerton's makeup.
Well, that's the other thing about this episode is the conflict just kind of starts. It doesn't really let you know that anything's going on. It's pretty much in high gear from the moment the episode starts, which is kind of weird for Tales from the Crypt. There's normally some semblance of setup, and in this episode, there's not any.
Well, I think we're just led to believe it's a chain gang episode or an escaped fugitive episode, and then it turns into this whole other thing.
Which is just kind of weird for the show, for a number of reasons, because this episode is kind of missing a little bit of setup. It really is. It kind of needs just a little bit of setup. Yeah,
instead of the other thing that actually bothered me in it is because the visual medium. I always say this, like, it's the first rule of screenwriting is show me, don't tell me. And here, when she relates the curse to DB Sweeney while they're on the stairs, we kind of pan over to where it happened, and then we maybe hear some voices, but, like, why aren't we just seeing the flashback? It's kind of insane. I guess they spent all their money on the fantastic makeup.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, like you said, I like the concept of this episode. I think this episode is really poorly executed for a lot of reasons. I think the rules of the stairs are not very well defined and seem a little wishy-washy at best.
Yeah.
And I think when they're put into practice towards the end of the episode, when you've got DB Sweeney's character continuing to venture farther into the house upstairs, it's really upsetting that it kind of just goes full. It throws all the rules out the window and just decides, okay, well, now he's just going to turn into essentially a zombie.
Yeah, like, so when the curse was laid down, it was for all stairs within the house. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, the further he went up, the older he was going to get. The further she went up, the younger she was going to get. But, yeah, the rules of the curse are ill-defined at best.
Yeah, and I think the ending really does sour me on the episode as a whole. You've got, Rachel Tickerton's character becoming a baby and DB Sweeney's character becoming, again, like an undead zombie, and then it just ends.
Yep, it sure does. We're left with the horror of a baby and a zombie together. Shocking.
And it's like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, eventually that baby's going to go back downstairs, right?
Well, that's what the Crypt Keeper makes jokes about in the wraparounds, and it's like, I don't need the Crypt Keeper's wraparounds to finish the episode's logic for me. Like, that's not what the Crypt Keeper's wraparounds are for. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That is 100% true with the television series. I think in the comic, the Crypt Keeper or the Vault Keeper or the Old Witch would come in and give a little bit of a wrap up to let us know what happened further on, but that is absolutely not the Crypt Keeper's job here on the show. He's just supposed to sometimes he didn't even mention the episode. He just continues whatever sketch he was doing at the beginning.
Right, which is normally what happens. So, but yeah, you've got the Crypt Keeper. He wraps up the episode, and it's so weird. It doesn't really work. It sticks out like a sore thumb because I don't need the Crypt Keeper to be the one to summarize the episode, and he doesn't do a very good job of it. He just kind of makes a wisecrack about, she'll wander down eventually. And it's like, I don't need this. And, I mean, again, I think this episode is a better concept more than anything else. I think it's a good concept, but not a very good segment. In execution, that is.
I probably would have enjoyed it more had I not been staring in horror at the makeup and not the plot line of the thing. So,
but hey, look, this is a supernatural episode for once.
I'm not going to complain about that. Really liked it. And like I said,
as supernatural as I guess this show is willing to go anymore, which is a fucking shame.
Virtually never. Well, why bother on Tales from the Crypt?
Which is a shame, a total shame.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and say skip this one.
Yeah, I'm going to say skip it as well. Again, I don't need the Crypt Keeper to be the one to finish the episode for me, and that's never been, like you said, in the show. That's never been the Crypt Keeper's job.
Yeah, not.
So I don't need it now, and don't start changing the way you do things in the 6th season of the show.
Well, they did introduce that young character, right? Like the Crypt Keeper get pregnant by this time. Isn't that what all television shows do by then?
All right, let's talk about the next episode, In the Groove.
Oh, hello, kiddies. You're just in time for your driving lesson. Today, we'll be learning about parking and the right way to look behind when hacking up. But first, I thought we'd go over a few common hand signals. This, of course, means you're turning right. And this means you're turning left. And this means... slow down. It's time to watch Tales from the Crypt. Tonight's moving violation concerns a disc jockey who's so cutting edge, he may lose his chap. I call it In the Groove.
So In the Groove aired December 21st, 1994. It stars Miguel Ferrer, Linda Doucette, and Wendy Malick. It's directed by Vincent Spano and written by Jack Temchin. Miguel Ferrer plays a shock jock who has a woman brought in to help him possibly up his ratings. And this episode is bizarre because this feels like Twilight Zone.
Yeah, this feels like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, man. I don't get it. And, okay, well, speaking to that, this isn't even shock suspense stories where they derive the story from. This is crime suspense stories number 21. It was written by Al Feldstein and artwork by Jack Davis. Comic is very similar to what we get here. Yeah, was this a Tales from the Crypt episode? Like, it just seemed like a crimey episode. There's a murder being planned and double crosses and stuff, but I mean, I guess it's no different than some of the other episodes we've been getting over the past 6 years here. But, once again, let's get Miguel Ferrer in and then not give him a decent episode with which to star.
Well, holy shit, this is not only is it Miguel Ferrer in this episode, this is the second time he's been on the show in yet another episode that is just a complete mess.
I will say that
at least the first episode had supernatural stuff.
That's true, but it was so weird. Like that last one, it was just guy comes back from the grave for no good reason. I mean, he had a reason, but we didn't get a sort of supernatural explanation. So, but you're right. Like, if you're going to put these two episodes against one another, I'm going to probably choose the other one just because I like zombies. This one, it's just I don't know. What is his show, man? Like he's doing a sex call-in show, but he's doing it during drive time in the mornings.
And then he insults the people who call in.
And his mother left them the station, but they have a ton of stations, but he can only be on air town. I'd want to read that will. It was probably more interesting than the episode we see.
Yeah, I didn't really have any clue as to what was going on with the character relationship between Wendy Malick and Miguel Ferrer. They mention it a couple times, but I didn't understand. I didn't understand what they were going for with his character's show. And then when Linda Doucette shows up, she has supernatural powers, but doesn't.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get it because apparently she had supernatural powers, but she didn't have supernatural powers.
But it's like, she lays hands on him and then suddenly has a flash of brilliance about how to fix the show or something. And that happens a couple of times. So I was convinced this was going to be a supernatural episode, but that just wasn't the case at all. And can I just say, Vincent Spano, I've enjoyed his performances in the past, but he is a terrible filmmaker. There are shots in this that just make me cringe. Anyone who thinks a close-up of Miguel Ferrer's mouth is somehow sexy, which I think he frames a couple of times, it's not.
It's just there doesn't seem to be a lot of really well thought out sensibilities on screen when it comes to the people that are being shown and versus the talent that we know that they have.
Yeah, I mean,
I know Miguel Ferrer is a good actor. I know Wendy Malick is a good actor, and they are completely wasted in this episode, especially Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah, like the plot even doesn't, I don't know. Ultimately what we were dealing with here was Wendy Malick wanted to try out new talent and used him as a guinea pig. This is what I took away from it. And so it was a plan with that girl to get rid of Miguel Ferrer and then give her the time slot for the show that he built up. I don't know. Very confusing 4 minutes of television.
And then she dies at the end. Or, excuse me, and then Miguel Ferrer dies at the end. He just gets murdered.
Right. Because that's, yeah. Why not?
Why not? Because you would think that there would be some logic to the script.
Yeah, it's really all over the place. And I don't know, like, this is not the first DJ type thing that they've done on the show. And
no, this is the second one because they did the David Warner one.
Which, I mean, I guess this one is a little more radio centric that they're in the studio the whole time, but didn't shine any light on any of the radio business, didn't give us anything interesting character-wise. I mean, his character's just pretty much a prick. And, he gets his comeuppance? I don't know. It's very confused. This is way too late in the game to be throwing these episodes out.
Well, it's way too late in the game to be throwing out episodes that don't do anything. This doesn't have an interesting story to tell. It doesn't do anything interesting with Miguel Ferrer and his time, so why are we doing this episode?
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Had this come earlier in the seasons, it still would have been a dog.
I'm disappointed by this episode. Like, more so than I was by Staired.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least Staired and Horror had, like, an interesting concept in there. That's something to play with or turn over in your mind. And as unsatisfying as the ending might have been, it was at least an attempt at paying off something that had been set up. Here, it's about this guy and his success on the radio and this quasi-supernatural figure who's helping him to get there, and then just turns into a rote murder plot so he can inherit. Like, oh, okay. Why?
Well, I gotta kill my sister because now she's getting rid of me. She's ousting me. Who cares?
Just dumb. Like, what did Wendy Malick even care? Like, just fire him and let him go to another station, you know? Like,
yeah, I didn't know. I didn't get that at all. Like, it seemed unnecessarily stupid. Unnecessarily stupid and unnecessarily contrived.
Yeah, I mean, there was absolutely nothing for her to gain by killing him. She already had control of the radio stations. He was just on-air talent that she could get rid of at any time. So why this elaborate and way too elaborate plot to do this? Like, it's a long con with very little payoff, I think. Ultimately, isn't he making tons of money now for the studio? Like, who cares? Like, keep him on the air.
I was under the impression that was the case.
So,
but again, I'm having a hard time figuring out even what this episode was going for.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
There seems to be no clear through line to any of it. Like, Miguel Ferrer wants to be successful on the radio. That's the only plot line that made sense or paid off in any way. The rest of it is confused.
And again, I don't understand, ultimately, if you're going to tell this kind of story and you're going to tease a supernatural twist to it and then not follow through, why even tease it to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, was that just a filmmaking mistake?
I guess it must have been just like a stylistic choice.
I guess demonstrating what a moment of inspiration looks or feels like. But all it did was make me think that she was some sort of demon and there was going to be some demonic payoff at the end.
Right. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting, like, when they kind of cut to her at the end of the episode, you would see something kind of supernatural, like a hint of it. And it never shows up.
No, and it could have gone there. Like, they could have had his show become weirder and more mean-spirited, and then, I don't know. That's an old Tales from the Dark Side episode called The Devil's Advocate with Jerry Stiller, where he's a DJ who abuses everybody and then he ends up in hell, which is, I can't help but think while I'm watching this episode. And so I guess I'm glad they didn't ape that structure necessarily, but any other structure might have been interesting, because what we got was definitely not.
I was about to say, yeah, what this episode is effectively, in my opinion, and clearly in yours, it is nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. It is such a non-episode. Like, when it was over, I was like, that was it?
Oh, so there we go. Now he's dead, and she's on-air talent now, which seems to me could have just happened from the beginning. Yeah, would have rather spent time with Miguel Ferrer just, like, on the air for half an hour than the plot machinations they decided were necessary.
Exactly. So, on the next episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're going to be taking a look at episode 11 and 12 of Season 6, Surprise Party and Doctor of Horror. Until then, where can people find you, Father Malone?
Check me out over on my YouTube channel, Ot5 Films. Got a lot of content there for you. You can also hear me over on Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast about the only decent iteration of the Twilight Zone. And about once a month or so, you can hear me over on Chris's show, The Culture Cast, talking movies.
And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Casualty_Chris. That's where I plug all the podcasts that I'm on. Follow us on Twitter at ChroniclesFTC or ChroniclesFromTheCrypt.com. That's where you can find the rest of our show. We've been doing this show for almost 2 years now. We are nearing the end of the show, so go ahead and check out all those prior episodes. We do have an interview with a whole bunch of people: Ernie Hudson, John Kassir. They're all there. Check those episodes out. And as always, big thanks to John Kassir, and we'll catch you on the next episode.